What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Langcast. I am here today with Fingtam Languages, also known as Aaron, I suppose. Aaron is a guy. I actually stumbled across his channel. He has a Fingtam Adventures channel as well, and I stumbled across his channel because he speaks Esperanto, and he messaged me, and then we ended up getting together, and then he has a language channel, and I figured we need to get this guy on and have some conversation. So I appreciate you joining, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
So, and I love the fact too that you're from Wisconsin, because I told you in messaging, like, even though I'm from Virginia, Wisconsin sports I'm a huge fan of, so that's kind of funny.
Right, and that. Yeah.
So,
and I lived not too far from Virginia for a few years. I lived in North Carolina for a while.
Okay, what part of North Carolina?
So I'm kind of familiar with that, dialect of that area too.
Yeah. What area in North Carolina did you live?
The coastal area. I lived in Jacksonville.
Okay. Wow. My brother is a retired Marine Corps veteran. He was stationed in Jacksonville.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was in the Marine Corps. I was
Whoa.
stationed probably right at the same place.
Holy crap, man. I'm trying to think. He retired. Well, that's probably been like 6 or 7 years ago now, but that'd be hilarious if you guys like knew each other or something.
Right.
So,
really funny.
I'm intrigued. I do want to talk languages and stuff, obviously, but I am intrigued too about your adventure channel, because you travel everywhere. Yeah. So I mean, obviously I know why people love to travel, but like what's behind that? Like,
I'm I just got the wanderlust, man. I don't know. I love to travel, and I'm a broke college student, so I gotta find cheap ways to travel. I use couch surfing a lot. I do a lot of hitchhiking, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And it's a blast. I just love meeting new people. I love seeing new places, learning about new cultures, and that's a big part of my languages too. I'm hitchhiking through France or Spain, or traveling to all these, hitchhiking through Quebec, Canada, learning French.
Yeah.
So that's all been a big part in my language learning as well.
That's super cool, man. I love that. Is it like, I don't know, because I mean, there's a stigma behind hitchhiking in the United States.
Oh yeah.
So how does it translate to, like, if like you said, if you're in France or something like that, is there kind of a weird negative stigma on it, like there is in the United States, or?
No. Well, it's not as. Yeah, in the United States, people see it just as dangerous, and most people think it's illegal.
Right.
But depending on different parts of the world, it's not viewed as poorly. I have more experience hitchhiking in Canada, I think in Quebec, and I felt very safe there. And I talked to several different people that used to say, yeah, I used to go hitchhiking all the time and never had any problems. But I think people in Quebec are just really nice.
Right. Well, I mean, I've always heard people in Canada are just like super nice and super friendly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true. Out of anywhere in the world, if I could live anywhere, I'd probably go to Montreal, Canada. It's my favorite place, and they speak French, which I'm all about.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually anxious. You know that in 2020, the Esperanto Congress is going to be in Montreal.
Yeah, I've been paying close attention to that. I'm hoping I can go, because that is definitely. Actually, when I was there, I met one of the guys that's helping plan it. I think his dad is the president or one of the leaders of the Esperanto Society of Quebec or something like that. So
nice.
Yeah, it's a great city. It's really cultural and got a lot of languages and stuff. In fact, they had this huge language convention. Have you ever heard of Langfest?
I have not, actually.
Last year. There's a lot of big names like Benny, and Steve Kaufman, Stephen Krashen. There was a bunch of really big language, polyglot names that were there. So
nice. I'll have to check that out.
One of these years, yeah.
How is because you speak French, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm learning. Well,
gotcha.
I'm learning French. Yeah.
I was gonna say, how were the differences in getting because Montreal, like, Quebecer French is completely different from France French, right? Like, it's pretty different, at least.
Yeah, pretty different. Like, it's funny because so I've only been to Quebec maybe three or four times.
Hmm.
And the first time I went, I had just started learning French, like maybe a month before, just on Duolingo. And I was not, I mean, I did my best to speak because I
Right.
wasn't afraid of making mistakes,
Right. That's the way you got to be
Uh,
too.
I wasn't afraid of making a fool of myself, so I would just go out in the street and start speaking French to people. But my French was definitely not at the level where I would be able to like notice their accents or their like regional dialect or whatever.
Mm.
But this last time I went, so I actually so my French, I was kind of a non-traditional French student. I started learning French on my own.
Mm.
Duolingo, just listening to music. I got some free Pimsleur CDs from the library. So I did a lot of free studying, a lot of memorize the app, not just memorize.
Yeah.
And then I spent like 2 weeks in Canada, and that was like my main everything I had done for studying French. Then the following school year, I decided, like, we have these placement tests to find out how, like, what level of French you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally just thought, just for fun. So I'm a linguistics major with a minor in Spanish, but I'm already fluent in Spanish. So that was just kind of like blow off classes, to be honest.
Gotcha.
And then
those
I thought,
break
just for
classes.
Fun, I'm going to go take this French placement test just to see where I'll end up. And after less than a year of studying French on my own, I went in and I placed out of all the semesters of French, like all of the, you know, they have all your basic semesters where you're learning French, and then you go straight into the like literature classes and conversation classes and everything. I tested out of all of them, and I was able to go straight into, it was French 303. So I skipped out of like four classes.
Wow.
And I was talking to my advisor who was looking at this test, and she was like, "You took the French test?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just thought I would do it just to see." And she goes, "You know, if you take 3 more French classes after this, you can get a minor." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do that too."
Yeah. Wow.
So now, I'm going to be studying abroad in France this summer. So that'll give me 6 more credits, and then I'll have a French minor.
That's crazy. So, your because you're traveling all the time. What does your family think about it? Are they like, that's got to be tough for like, just to be like, oh my God, we never see him, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're used to it by now, you know.
Right.
I'm 28. I left home when I was 19. You know, and that was when I joined the Marine Corps, and then, you know, after going on deployments and stuff, you know, going to Canada is not as worrisome for them.
True.
And I am home a lot, actually, believe it or not. Like, contrary to what my adventure channel would cause some people to believe. I just travel nonstop during the summer, to be honest, and then during the semesters, I'm home.
Gotcha. You know? Okay.
But I'm not spending a lot of money doing anything else. Not traveling a whole lot during the school year, and then I just save, you know, several $1,000s over the course of the semester, and then I'm able to stretch a penny a long ways, especially when it's a Canadian penny. Actually, they don't even have pennies over there.
Man.
But
that's the life, man. Yeah, that sounds super, super cool. I would like, that's traveling's always been something that I've really, really wanted to do, but I've never done that. As a matter of fact, just a side note, I remember right after I started watching you is when you did the I think the title of the video was something like Running with the Bulls or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you didn't upload for like, it was like a long time, and I was like, I would go back to your channel, and I was like, is this guy dead? What's happening here?
No, you know, so I got kind of burnt out a little bit. This Adventures channel was kind of, it was sort of an experiment, you know, and for a while I was uploading every day. But when I'm traveling, like, first of all, when I'm hitchhiking, I don't know where. Sometimes I camp out on the side of the road, and I don't have any Wi-Fi or anything to upload videos.
Right.
Second of all, when I'm on a vacation, traveling, I'm seeing the world, meeting new people. I really don't want to take the time to be videotaping all day, and then I have to spend at least an hour editing at night, and then find somewhere to go sit in a coffee shop or McDonald's or somewhere so that I can upload the videos.
Right.
So partway through, I just kind of gave up.
That's understandable.
But I'll probably still upload them spontaneously.
Right.
But
That's
I just haven't.
Yeah, I know that's how some people do it. Like, I know when Evil Dio will do his, like, whatever Esperanto videos he's doing, he'll upload, like, one video 1 week, and then it'll be, like, day 2 will be the next week just when he has time.
Right. Yeah, I've seen a few of his, like, conventions that he goes to and different things like that where he does stuff like that.
Yeah. That's cool, though, man. Like I said, I really, really love that idea. And I just wanted to throw that out there. You did the Running with the Bulls video, and then it was just, like, gone for a minute. And I was like, all right.
I didn't think about that. What was that?
So,
go through my mind.
So that's cool. So, all right. So you said that you speak Spanish and stuff.
Yeah.
How, I yesterday, I uploaded it today, the podcast that I uploaded with a guy named Dakota from Language Learning Lounge, and we talked about, was it last week? I don't know. We're just going to start this anew as if I didn't, because I don't remember if I did or not. But, so, verb conjugations in Spanish, which a lot of people consider to be, like, the devil of learning languages. Like,
right.
what helped you through that? Like, what did you do to study verb conjugations?
Okay, so I remember studying verb conjugations in school. Okay, so for Spanish, I started studying Spanish when I was 14 in middle school. And even as a teenager, I loved language. Okay. I had, like, at least the seeds deep within me of having a love for learning languages.
Right, okay.
So I took Spanish all throughout high school. I mean, from the time I was 14 to 18. So almost every semester of high school. So I took a lot of Spanish, and I mean, as everyone who has ever taken a Spanish class in the United States knows, you don't learn languages in class, really. I mean, no. They can help, they have some benefit, but you learn languages in the real world.
Right.
Talking with people, making friends, having experiences. So I never really attained a super high level of Spanish, and then joined the Marine Corps. I went traveling, and I was working and did a few different things, and I had always had this, like, just this desire to go back and start learning it again. So after I got out of the Marine Corps, I moved down to Central America for over a year.
Wow.
And that's where, and I guess, I don't know, if I'm giving advice to other people, obviously that's not practical for everyone to do, to move down to Central America. Right. But there are definitely things that you can do to emulate the immersion that I experienced down there. And one of the big things that I think made a difference for me was when you're in school, they give you these trees. You know, the trees where they have, like, one line down the middle and then two lines, and you have yo, tú, él, ella, nosotros, vosotros, and ustedes, or ustedes and ellos.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And then you just have to memorize them.
Right.
I can't. There's some kind of noise.
So yeah, I have a train that goes by, and it never goes by until I'm doing something where I need it to not go by. Right,
yeah. So anyways, they have these verb conjugation charts, and you're just expected to memorize them. Like, you're just looking at a piece of paper, and you have to memorize them, and that never worked for me.
Right.
Until I found times to actually use them in real life. Obviously, that was happening to me a lot because I was living in Central America. With the regular verbs, it wasn't that bad, but I remember learning dije and dijo.
Oh yeah.
And all these different irregular verbs. I remember those two specifically, especially since O is normally used for the first person. I don't know, that for whatever reason that just really messed me up. And I wasn't learning all of these different verb conjugations all at once off of a piece of paper. It was like something would come up and then I would have to stop and think, okay, what is that one word, that one conjugation that I need?
Yeah.
And so not everyone has the opportunity to go down there and put themselves in immersion situations, but there are a lot of things you can do to immerse yourself in a language throughout the day, throughout your week, and so I talk about that a lot on my channel.
Yeah, the one thing that let me go into this. The reason I asked about the conjugations, because I actually do remember we were talking about when I was talking to Dakota about one of my biggest issues with the Duolingo courses is how the voices don't speak very well sometimes, and especially in Esperanto where there is no verb conjugation, the pronouns can sound very similar when someone's speaking fast.
Right. Yeah, I briefly watched your video. I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. And so, you've got somebody saying Nilimanjas, and you're like, what was that first word? And then you try to listen to it again, and it's like, Nilimanjas, and it's like,
I remember that.
No, what is happening here? So, Esperanto has made me grow to actually appreciate. I love Esperanto, but it's made me grow to appreciate verb conjugations because you know exactly what's happening.
Right. I mean, everything in languages evolved for a reason. It's not accidental.
Right.
So there are some things that some things that just seem utterly redundant and pointless in languages, but they're there to help us communicate.
Right.
In the end. Yeah.
One of the things that I do, that you're talking about immersion, one thing that I don't know why I never thought about this before, but I started just searching. I haven't really found one, like a go-to one, but I will search for vlogs in Spanish.
Oh, yeah.
And not... I mean, I do search for people who are just speaking Spanish because they can, but I search for people, like, literally a person like me that lives in some random small town in Puerto Rico uploading a video, you know what I mean? Like, and then I have closed caption on, but I don't have closed caption English, I have closed caption Spanish.
Yeah, that's a big help.
And because to me, I would rather not know 100% of what they're saying, but read the words and say, okay, that's how they say that, because then I can fill in the blanks on what the words are later.
Yeah.
And so it's like kind of a training my ear.
Yeah. That was a big reason why I liked Evil Dia a lot. I've watched, I mean, I haven't seen any of his most recent videos within probably the last few months, but there was a while where I was just watching Evil Dia nonstop, and I probably watched every single one of his videos.
Yeah, he did there for a minute. He went to like almost like a daily upload style, and he wasn't putting subtitles on his videos, and that didn't bother me. And then he was like, hey, I made this channel because I wanted it to be kind of an instruction type thing, so we're going to lay off the daily videos, and I'm going to do subtitles. And it seems like he may upload like once a week now. But I think subtitles are great. The problem is, it's almost like we become too reliant on them, and it makes us lazy in listening, in my opinion, anyway.
I think there's pros and cons to it, because for one thing, I find that when there are subtitles, my comprehension there's a huge jump in comprehension. Like, a lot of times I'll be listening to something and just have no idea what's going on.
You mean like a subtitle? Like if you're listening to French, the subtitles in French?
Yeah. Like I watch a lot of movies in French, and without the subtitles, well, I'm getting better now, but for a long time, like without the subtitles, it's just like listening to someone speak Chinese.
Right.
But with subtitles, all of a sudden I'm able to follow, I can read, I'm understanding a good majority. You go by the context of what's happening on the screen, but then adding the words is a huge help. And I think that's a big help for um, when you have the subtitles, it's like it. I don't know. It helps you understand the way they actually say the words. You
Yes,
know,
yeah.
like especially with French, because it's not like Spanish. French spellings are sometimes very creative.
Yes, they
So
are, man.
so it helps you a lot of times look at the word, and first you hear what they say, and you're like, I have no idea. But then you look at the word, and you're like, oh yeah, duh, that's exactly what they just said, and now
Yeah.
it makes total sense now that I see the word.
Right.
Um, and so I do a lot of listening to music as well, reading the lyrics as you listen to music, and then you're learning the way they actually pronounce these words.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah, because I know you did like you did a few videos there in a row, like as a series of like learning with music, and you would take a song and like break it down.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I started my channel, that's what it was. That was like, so I'm actually a Spanish and English teacher.
Okay. Wow.
And so when I started my channel, originally what it was is I was making videos that I could just use in a curriculum to show to my students and say like, all right, well now we're learning about direct object pronouns, and here's a song I did a song that had a bunch of direct object pronouns, and so I did these videos that I could use almost as like sort of the centerpiece of a lesson, and then it kind of evolved from there. People started saying like, hey, I'm not learning Spanish or English, I'm learning Portuguese.
Right.
So then it kind of evolved, and now I don't do so much. I'm not teaching you a language. I'm teaching you the strategies that work for me for learning whatever language I'm learning next.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. As far like what I meant, the subtitles, that's a good idea. I meant when you're watching a video in a certain language and it's English subtitles, I think we become complacent. That's what I meant on that. I agree. I think subtitles are great to kind of reinforce, because I agree. Comprehension is completely different reading, because even now, I have a buddy of mine, his name is Kyle, and he speaks Esperanto, and for whatever reason, even in the small city that I'm in, I happen to find one guy within about 45 minutes that we can meet up and talk and stuff, and
Right.
it's still so different talking to somebody versus reading it.
Right. I remember my first time meeting another Esperanto speaker was kind of surreal. I was like, because I had been learning this language that I knew was made up, but then to actually meet another human being and interact with them in this language that was invented, it's really an interesting experience.
It is. One of the things that blows my mind about it is the idea of Esperanto is I get that it's the world language, la la la, the whole international language and stuff that Zamenhof wanted. The thing that blows my mind is so many people preach it as a precursor. Learn Esperanto and then you can branch into other languages.
Yeah.
Most of the people that I talk to only speak Esperanto. Like, I don't know a lot of people that speak Esperanto and.
Well, yeah, I think there are, but there's also a lot of people that just speak Esperanto too, right?
But I think maybe it has to do with its, I don't want to say culture, but culture, it's like, because once I got in, man, because I had planned on just kind of banging it out real quick, doing like a 3-month study, finishing the tree, kind of touching up on that. But man, then you just become, or I did at least, I just became hooked with like this, just the phenomena around it.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole culture, and it's so funny. People bash Esperanto all the time.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm studying linguistics, and seems like every class, the first day class, you go around, all the students introduce themselves, and in the linguistics class, everyone has to talk about what languages I speak or what languages I'm learning, And I always say, all right, and then as like at the end of my list of languages, I'm like, and I am an Esperanto enthusiast, and then they kind of look at you and they're like, but why?
Yeah.
Yeah. And and that I really need to just like memorize a spiel. Like, here's my 3 bullet points. Here's my 6 reasons or whatever that I speak Esperanto, and then just
Yep.
spiel it out. But there's so many reasons, really.
Yeah. Agreed.
And
I will always defend it because of like people I've had even on my channel where I'll see people who are like, why not use your time to learn this or that? And it's like, you don't understand, man. I've tried.
yeah,
I never had the confidence in learning a language until I learned it. And I'm not quote unquote fluent by any means. I've actually not even I've got 2 skills left on my tree, so but
yeah.
I can speak enough depending on the context or the situation. I can speak enough. I'm satisfied, which is ultimately the goal in language learning, but I will defend it forever because it gave me the confidence that no, you can totally learn a language. It doesn't matter. Just do it.
Right. Yeah, and it's like 1/20th as hard to learn as. I mean, I've read studies that say learning Esperanto is like 1/20th the difficulty as learning other, natural languages.
Yeah.
So like that for sure, it's a stepping stone. Like I know I think Benny Lewis talks about just spending 2 weeks learning Esperanto.
Yeah, I know he's one of the few polyglots that, like quote unquote big name polyglots that
right.
he at least learned it as far as I know.
Yeah, he speaks pretty well.
So that's cool. I'm hoping that more can get on. I was doing a a challenge. It was like an exchange. Like I kept trying to talk to Moses McCormick, Laoshuv, about learning Esperanto, and he's like, I don't know, and I was like, dude, you can give me any language and I'll study it, and because I'm thinking like first and foremost, I'll encourage anybody to learn it, but I was like, man, if we can get more polyglots behind it, it'll make it, it'll just bring a shed a decent light on the on the idea of it.
Well, I think the Duolingo course is that's what 2.5 years old now. I think it's made a big impact in the visibility of Esperanto, and I think it's going to continue making. For sure. Okay, so I have mixed opinions about Duolingo. I don't use it anymore, to be honest. I might if I start learning a new language.
Something to get a base in it.
Yeah, like it does some things well, but I've kind of fallen away. But I will say for sure, I never would have started learning Esperanto if it was not for Duolingo.
I 100% agree.
At this point, like knowing what I know now after having learned other languages, now I'm confident. I know how to start a language, right? Like I know what to do. I know what works best for me. I know how to learn vocabulary. I know how to learn grammar. But at that point, Esperanto was the second language that I really started learning. And the only language that I started learning without actually living in the country. So I would have just been totally lost. I would have gone on to learnu.com one time and tried the course and then just given up.
Right.
If it was not. So I'm very grateful to them for that. I do think it's a good starting point for languages, especially for people that are inexperienced.
I think so too, and I think overall the course is good. Like I said, I like that it has a real person speaking. But sometimes, man, those
did a great job.
Yeah, oh yeah. Just sometimes those verb conjugations from where there's no and honestly, even the AS, IS, OS, and US can sound very, very similar.
Yeah.
When being spoke, so I get confused a lot. So, but I mean, I guess part of it's context, and part of my problem with Duolingo is I hear something and I'm just like, boom, hammer it out. Oh crap! I got that. Instead of kind of digesting what I've just taken in, and just thinking about it and stuff like that. So,
and one of the things we talk about a lot in linguistics, so this would be pragmatics specifically, is the context that a sentence is spoken, just the context in which something is uttered. That's going to be a huge clue to you as to what the person means. And if you're just looking at the little box on Duolingo, or to type your words in, that is giving you no context. And especially when you have weird sentences like the bear does not like to drink beer, or those well-known ridiculous Duolingo sentences. You have no context to go off of for those. So when you're in a sentence, when you're in a real world setting, the difference between AS, OS, IS, US, that becomes a lot less important if
Right.
if you don't hear all that. Meaning is usually pretty clear.
Yeah, I agree. My problem, like, Duolingo always humbles me when I'm learning, especially when I'm studying Esperanto, because I'm always like, nah, man, I'm super good at this. This is perfectly. Oh, nope, got it wrong. Crap.
Right.
And then obviously you'll see the mistake and you'll be like,
Yeah.
duh.
Right.
Why? I obviously knew that.
I think that's a big part of the reason why I kind of fell away from there. Like, if I make a spelling error, it doesn't mean I don't know the language. It just means I messed up, but now I got to start all over again. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, we went into a big thing on the last cast about my hatred of, especially if you use it mobile, you have that stupid heart system, man.
Yeah. Right.
But that's a whole different thing. So, I'm curious as to, so you're studying Spanish. You said you started studying Spanish at 14.
Yeah.
At what point did you think, I'm gonna start studying I know that, and then I know that you went into the Marines and stuff. But at what point did you figure that you wanted to go into linguistics, as far as like a major and stuff like that?
So I was known that I was interested in languages, and I also want to clear up something, because I'm sure a lot of people aren't super familiar with what linguistics is, because it's funny when you're a linguistics major, I'm at Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, seeing family I haven't seen for a while, and then I always got to tell them, well, what are you majoring in? I'm majoring in linguistics. And then the first thing they ask is, how many languages do you speak? Or what language are you studying linguistics in? And that's not what linguistics is.
Right.
So I'm studying a lot of languages because I am a language nerd. So maybe I'm not like the most ideal representative for linguists.
No.
But you can, there's a big difference between studying a language and studying languages, I guess, if that makes sense. Or there's a big difference between learning a language and studying about a language.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know what a good example would be. You could study about direct objects and verb conjugations and declensions and noun case and all kinds of stuff. And, do experiments and study how people speak and all kinds of stuff, and never learn the language. Like, have no interest or make no attempt at learning the language, because that's not your goal. You're just studying the different properties that the language has.
Right.
So, sorry. I'm going on a tangent there.
No,
but anyways,
hey, go for it.
I got interested in linguistics while I was just after I started learning Esperanto, actually. So I was kind of at a crossroads in my life. I'd been in the Marines for 4.5 years. I had it's taken a year to travel. I was in El Salvador, and I was coming to a junction. I knew I was going to go back to college. And I was planning on studying like visual media, or like I wanted to be a videographer or a photographer or something.
Yeah.
That was my thought. Then just months before I was going to go back to college, I realized that that's not what my passion is. I love learning about languages. I love learning languages, and I love learning about languages. And I remember, so this is really funny, but so when they came out with Duolingo in English, that was in, I want to say, May or June of 2015. And then just a few months after that, they announced that they were gonna do a Spanish version of Esperanto,
right,
on Duolingo. And I actually applied to be on the team for that. But for sure, my Esperanto was not good enough at the time, because I only started learning it I
Right.
started learning Esperanto the day it came out on Duolingo.
Yeah.
But I just remember like reading some of the bios of these guys that were on the teams. And I remember thinking like, this is something I could see myself doing, helping people learn languages.
Right.
But you have to have kind of a knowledge of the way languages works, how they're similar, how they're different, how people learn languages, all this kind of working. And and I read this book called The Art of Language Invention. I think I was kind of telling you about this on Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
But it was by the guy that wrote the languages for Game of Thrones.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
Dothraki and High Valyrian or something like that. And he went into detail about all the main areas of linguistics. So you got phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics. Those are like the main ones. And he went into detail, like excruciating detail. I mean, it's a really interesting book. He went really deep into like all the thought that he puts into making these languages so that they seem real. And it goes way deeper than most people. Like most people don't realize all the tiny little nuances that languages can encode.
Right.
And it was super fascinating. And I remember finishing this book, and all this was kind of happening at once. Then I was applying for the Duolingo thing, and that's right when I was applying for college again. And then I just kind of made a last minute decision that I was going to study linguistics.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. That's interesting. I would like to check that book out. And also I like that it's funny because so many people are like they don't think about it. You're right, because it's like, okay, so Zamenhof invented a language. Or the guy that invented High Valyrian, it's like, well, anybody could do that. And it's like, nope, no, they could not.
You do not realize the crazy amount of thought that you can actually put into making your languages realistic.
Well, even just the sense of mind to make it consistent, like with, its stuff, like, because, I mean, I think about, and again, Esperanto is the only thing I have to go because I've never studied another. I know that you said you studied Tokipona, but with Esperanto, Zamenhof from the beginning said anything that ends in an O is a noun.
Yeah.
And so, that seems easy, but then you got to think, okay, that means that nothing, no matter how much I need it to end with an O, or if it ends in an O naturally in another language, like, it has to fit this formula, and it's just like, you have to plan all this out, and stuff.
Tokipona is really interesting, because, all the words in Tokipona are taken from other languages. But there's 14 letters in Tokipona, or 14 phonemes. I mean, same number of phonemes as letters. So sometimes she had to take all these words from other languages and turn them into words that fit the phonology of Tokipona.
Right.
Like she took the word bona from Esperanto, and because there's no B in Tokipona, she had to turn the B into a P. And as a linguist, you have to look at, what letters to B. B and P's are very similar.
Right.
And so she came up with this system for what letters are going to turn into what other letters so that I was able to fit my phonotactics for Tokipona.
And Tokipona is only like 135 words, right? 140, 135.
Less. It's like so it depends who you ask, honestly, which is strange because you'd think with so few words that you would be able to get a really hardcore count. But she's made adjustments over the years, and it's like approximately 120, 121 or something like that. I have the official book in my room.
Nice.
But so some people still prefer the older systems where there were some other words or some words mean different things. But it's about 120.
Gosh,
so
that's insane.
Really interesting. Just to spend like 1 or 2 weeks learning how to communicate with 120 words. It's fascinating.
Yeah, what we had talked about before is how it's, when you learn, and I guess that's the entire principle behind learning languages is, obviously I can speak anything I want to in English because it's my native language, but if I'm speaking in something else, and I don't know even one specific word, if it changes the outcome of that sentence, I have to think about how to convey the same point, maybe without using that word or whatever, and you have to kind of learn how to say things in a different way. And Toki Pona is interesting to me because how, like, as someone who studied it, how, like, I'm sure, like, how in-depth can you get? Like, how specific can you get, or is it very loose?
So you for sure, I mean, okay, and I have to clarify, I've only studied this for about 4 weeks total.
Right,
and
right.
That's 2 weeks in 2015. I did it as an experiment. And then 2 years later, I studied it for I forgot everything and I relearned it in 2 weeks. So that tells you how easy the language is, you know.
Right.
But for sure, you're basing a lot off of context.
Gotcha.
Which, now, I've heard people talk about Toki Pona Duolingo courses. Like, I've at least heard people, like, propose this idea.
Mm.
And as soon as I hear that, I immediately think there's no possible way you could make a Toki Pona Duolingo. Because, you know, you have one word that could mean, it could mean, okay, I'm trying to, it's been a few weeks now since I relearned Toki Pona. But you have, like, one word that could mean alcohol, and then if you, like, slightly change the meaning, it turns into crazy bathroom or something like
right.
that. So it's
like pitting on
telonasa is like crazy water, which means alcohol, you know, and then tomotelo nasa would be a crazy bathroom or something like that.
Yeah, well, because the only thing that I remember isn't the word for banana like fruit stick?
Yeah, I mean, you have all kinds of words for that. Like that's one. You have to get creative. That's one way that you could say banana. You could also say a yellow fruit, or like,
yeah.
You know,
wow. So it almost gives the creator freedom of how to, like, it's almost like an open, it's like open sourced language. How do you think you should say
really.
it?
I mean,
that's really cool.
Okay. It is a little bit deceptive to say that there's only 120 words, because there's a lot of compound words as well. Like, so, tomotawa it literally means like a go structure or a go room. And it's a car. So you take the word for structure and you take the word for go and you put them together, and it's a structure goes.
Yeah.
I guess so. It's a car. And then if you want to say boat, you just say the same thing, and then you add water to it. Or if you want an airplane, then it's the 2 words plus air.
Wow, that's I don't know, man. I may just out of curiosity, I may have to put my Spanish on kind of a remedial, maintain what I got, and I might have to give a week or so of just out of curiosity, because it intrigues me, like, which is language learning in itself.
Right.
But that's very interesting to me. Of course, then I'd feel really weird. Like, I don't know how I'd feel if I could speak 3 languages and 2 of them aren't technically real. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
They'd be like, "Oh, you're trilingual," and I'd be like, "I speak Esperanto and Toki Pona," and they'd be like, "What?"
You just don't tell them that. Yeah. Put it on all your job descriptions, or all your applications and everything. Trilingual.
Yeah. Trilingual.
I just not going to mention that one of the languages I speak, I learned all of the vocabulary in one weekend.
Yeah, that's funny.
No,
man.
for sure. That's what I did, though. I have no. Toki Pona is interesting for sure, but it's not interesting enough to me that I want to dedicate a lot of my time for my whole life to maintaining it.
Absolutely.
But it was a fascinating experiment for me to just plunge myself into that for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 times.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see. Well, and because it's just something fun to do, and there's a big difference, in whatever. And I think, like, there's a big difference in obviously that or whatever quote unquote real language you're learning, but I think I could probably knock out the vocabulary in a weekend for sure, because one thing I've noticed with learning is the more vocabulary that I've learned over the course of learning languages, the easier it is for me to remember vocabulary now.
Right.
I don't have to. Did this last night when I was doing this. My computer's dying. I don't have to spend as much time reviewing the vocabulary, and I guess my brain is just kind of used to just new words coming in, and so I just have, and depending on what the word is, I'll never forget the hardest word for me that I have ever learned learning a language for whatever reason was in Esperanto was deklivo for slope. And okay. I don't know why. I will never use the word. I don't think I very rarely say the word slope in English. But right. I remember going through because the way that I learn is I have for Esperanto, for example, for the thing is I have the Duolingo course, but I have a memorized course that's just the vocabulary from Duolingo.
Yeah.
Because flashcards work better for me for memorizing vocabulary. Sure. And man, it kept popping up, and I would miss it every freaking day. And finally, just after, God, I've been studying it for like 3 months, and finally, like, okay, now I get it, deklivo, like. Mm-hmm. So, and now the big word I'm struggling with is suitcase, which I think is like valizo or something like that. But
yeah, because in French it's valise. You know, so I ran into that problem too, where I would just find like one or two words that just for whatever reason can't. Okay, actually, I specifically remember learning the word to pinch in Spanish, which is pellizco, and I was in Colombia when I learned this. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, the guy said it one day, and I didn't know what he was talking about, so I asked him, and he says, "It's this thing, it's a pinch." And then I just could not, like, I was trying to remember every day. I was trying to remember it, and I would just forget it every time. And so I keep asking him, not because I wasn't like constantly running into situations where I had to use the word to pinch, right? But it was just like frustrating to me that I couldn't remember it. I would like wake up in the morning and I'd think, I can't remember how to say that word. So I think so I learned this technique from Benny, or I used to watch Benny Lewis a lot. If you have like 3 or 4 times already. So
yeah, no, I think people hate on him, but I think Benny makes great content.
Oh yeah, me too. I think he's great.
Yeah.
And I learned this technique from him, which I don't use. I think he suggests using this quite a bit, but I don't normally use it unless I run into one of these words. Mm-hmm. Where it's you come up with this crazy story that unites the meaning of the word with the pronunciation of the word. Mm-hmm. And so I was in Colombia, I remember, and I was trying to remember how to learn that pellizco means pinch. And so the story that I came up with in my mind was I'm imagining this group of gangsters, okay? And they own a company, and so it's a crazy story, but the crazier the better.
Yeah, oh yeah.
As far as I'm concerned,
easier to remember.
So this group of gangsters that own a company, and since they're a bunch of G's, they call it G's Co. And that's their gangster company. And then one day I went up and I pinched one of these gangsters, and they got really mad, and they put out a hit on me or something like that, unless I pay them a certain amount of money, or I have to pay my bounty or something like that.
Right.
And because I pinched them in order to save my life, I have to pay Gisco.
Pay Gisco.
And that was the mnemonic that I came up with.
Nice. Yeah.
And I know it's ridiculous, and I've told the story a lot, and people laugh at me, but it worked. Like, now I remember it's pellizco, and I've done that a few other times. Just come up with ridiculous stories that make no sense.
It makes them easier.
Helps you remember.
Yeah, it makes them easier to remember. I use that. I don't use the story method as much, but no, I use mnemonics for any and everything that I can.
Sure.
I think it's really good. I need to try the story thing, because I forgot that he had said that. And then once you started speaking it, because I remember his story was in a TED Talks where he talked about going to the beach.
Okay.
And he was learning the word, la playa.
Okay.
And he had this big story about going down there, and all these people were in shape, and all the players went to the
Oh,
beach, and that was
yeah.
like anyway. He had this big story about it. So yeah, I'm gonna have to try that with some stuff. Because
So what was the word?
Hmm?
What was the word that you said you were trying to learn on Duolingo? Or for Esperanto, declino or something? I don't know.
Valizo.
Believe.
Yeah,
No,
which
no, no. What was the word for slope? I don't
oh,
remember.
Deklivo, Deklivo.
Yeah. Like, for sure you could break that down into some parts. Like, you have deck, which would be like deck of a house, or maybe deck meaning 10, and then I don't know. We don't need to get into it right now, but you could get really creative with that. Anytime it comes up, that's what I do now.
Yep. And then I'll remember things really stupid ways, like even if it doesn't make sense. But I guess that's the point. Like when the first time I ever saw paraguas for umbrella in Spanish, my immediate thought was, oh, the word for umbrella literally is four waters, and that's
Yeah.
like. And
So-
it's probably not exact, obviously, because I know para and port are different things, but that's what I always thought of was four water, paraguas.
So in Spanish, para also means to stop, or not to stop. It means stop.
Ah,
So if you think about an umbrella, it's literally something that's stopping water from
Yeah.
falling. And it's the same with like parabrisas, or there's a bunch of, how Spanish has this weird way of making compound words, like matamoscas is it's not a fly killer, it's a kill flies.
right. Okay. Yeah, that makes... Okay.
One of my friends used to, oh man, in El Salvador, one of my friends used to come up to me and he would say, Aron, te apesta la escupe caca. And so what he was telling me is my poop spitter stinks. His word was escupe caca. So escupir meaning to spit, and caca meaning poop.
Wow.
So he made and this was his own invention, but he made a compound. That's how they make compound words in Spanish. You
That's
take
hilarious.
a verb and a noun.
And just put them together. Oh, man, that's so funny. Yeah, that's great. I love... Mnemonics is, like, my favorite thing ever. And I always thought that, like... I remember when I originally heard the idea of using it, I was like, but won't that take you longer to speak the sentence because you have to think of the mnemonic? But...
Yeah.
But it just works.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, if you have to stop and think of the mnemonic, it's true that it'll take you longer to speak. But, like, given the choice between stopping there and not being able to remember the word, or stopping and telling yourself a short story, remembering it, and then keep speaking,
Yeah.
in the long run, is your saving time.
Yep. I'll tell you, the best thing that I've ever heard that's helping me through Spanish right now is... Because, like, I'm obviously I'm trying to learn my verb conjugations and stuff, and I can do present tense, and for the most part I can do past tense. I'm still kind of spotty on it, and then I've learned even some like irregulars. Like I learned that like the verb, to be and then also to go, but in past tense are the same words.
Yeah. Really confusing.
But it was from Benny, and Benny said when you're learn the root form of the word, so learn whatever verb it is and how to say it, comer or whatever you're tocar or whatever you're doing, and then if you're doing it in the past, just say the word and then just add pasado, and
yeah, for real.
And he's like, it may sound weird, but they're gonna understand what you're saying. Oh, I to walk to the store past. Oh, you went to the store. Okay.
I mean, that's a perfectly valid way of communicating information, and a lot of languages just do that. Like, so I don't speak Chinese, but my understanding is that in Mandarin, actually in a lot of these Asian languages, there's just no tense. You just, if it's important to tell when something happened, you just say when it happened.
Yeah. In Chinese, there's no verb conjugations. You say, you can add like le to a word, and it'll mean past tense or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's...
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, as English speakers, we don't normally think about this. We just think you have to put an ed at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
word if it was in the past, and we don't think about it. But there's no reason that it has to be that way.
Right.
It's just English ended up being that way. Because if you think about it, you could just say like I go to the store yesterday, and that's completely unambiguous about whether you went in the future or in the past, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's, you know, a couple of those key words can change everything, and it's all about I actually had a conversation about context earlier today on an Esperanto group. A guy was talking about you know how the country system works in Esperanto, where it's kind of up in the air. Some are O, some are IO,
right.
and then some are Uyo or whatever. And the guy was,
yeah,
and the guy was like, "It's so confusing, man. It's really hanging me up and stuff." And I was just like, you know, don't put too much thought into it, because at the end of the day, past just a little bit, you're not gonna. Do you talk about countries a lot in English?
Yeah.
I said it's not really used that much. And he was like, "Oh, where are you from? Where have you be?" Oh, and then he was like, "Here's another example, like, oh, today in my country." And I was like, yeah, after the first 3 sentences, you never need to know another country. I said, and no one ever says, "Oh, today in the United States, this happened."
Right, yeah. And not only that, but like, even if you use the wrong ending of a word, it's like, this guy's he's not gonna misunderstand, or he's not gonna be really confused because you said, yesterday I went to French, right? Or like, you know, I was at a cafe in Spanish, right? They're gonna understand what you meant. I was in France. I was in Spain.
Yep. And that's the way you learn, because I did not get a grasp on the ig and idge verb endings until I made a huge video and I misused idge the entire freaking time.
Oh, I did the same thing one time.
And then somebody was like, "That's actually the exact opposite the way of that you're supposed to use it." And I was like, "I now understand this."
All right, that's funny. I love how supportive the Esperanto community has been on YouTube.
Yeah. You very occasionally I'll get somebody who's kind of like, "Why would you waste your time?" But for the most part, which that's not an Esperanto speaker, that's like somebody else usually, but
right. So on my Esperanto channel, all my videos are purely in Esperanto. So if you're not an Esperantist, you're just gonna come on my channel and not know what I'm saying. You know?
Yeah, I didn't know. Send that to me, and I'll check that out. Cause
but I guess I thought we had talked to my Esperanto channel too.
I don't think so. I just knew of just the Fingtam languages and the Fingtam adventures.
I have a lot of Fingtam video YouTube channels.
And now, because I know in your man, I don't think it was the Wisconsinese video, but I think it was maybe the video before where you'd mentioned Fingtam, and you said that you'd made a video about the origin of that. So I need to go back and look, because I don't know what the origin of that is.
Right. So so basically, Fingtam is a Hungarian word.
Okay.
And I went to Hungary when I was a teenager, and the only word I learned in Hungarian actually was Fingtam, which means I farted. And I was a teenager at the time, you know, so I thought this was hilarious.
Right.
I went all around the country saying Fingtam to everyone.
Wow, so that's your entire basis. That's hilarious.
Yes, I know, and that's one. But you know, as a 16-year-old, I thought I was so funny that I could say I farted in Hungarian, and so I started making this into my usernames. But the nice thing about it is that there's nobody on the planet in any language that uses Fingtam as a username, except for me. Because if you're not Hungarian, then you don't know this word, and if you are Hungarian, it's not your username. Right. So whenever I would get like really upset about like not being able to find an email address or whatever that wasn't already taken, I would just put Fingtam in. You know, nobody knows what it means unless I tell them.
That's hilarious, man. That's my favorite story.
And then I took that and I sort of I created meaning out of it afterwards, because when I actually have pictures of myself. When I was in Hungary, I went into this custom T-shirt shop, and I got a custom-made T-shirt that said Fingtam across the chest, and I walked all around the country with this shirt. And so basically, like the story that I made up after the fact was that when you're learning a language, you have to be that bold, right? Like, if you only know one word in the language, you go around saying that one word. You practice with people. So that was like that was my reasoning for coming up with that username.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, man. But I mean, yeah, you got to be bold. Can't be afraid of anything. That's funny, man. Yeah. Like I said, I know that you mentioned that, and it was one of your last 2 videos. And I was like, I need to go back and find that and watch that, because the language channel, I didn't even know. I don't even remember. I don't remember exactly how I even re-stumbled across, because I just knew the Adventures channel, and I just stumbled across your language channel more so recently.
Okay.
And I don't remember what video it was that I stumbled across. I just remember stumbled across it, and I was like, that's the Adventures guy.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's so funny. It's really small.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so hard to find anything on YouTube, but to find somebody, especially that's not like millions of subscribers, to find 2 of their channels by circumstances.
Right.
Insane.
Yeah, totally.
So YouTube's working for you.
Yeah, apparently. I just, funny, I just got this like YouTube bug about a year ago, and I just like, I created all these channels, but yeah, I'm having a blast doing it. I love the community and meeting new people and
absolutely
all the aspects of it.
Yeah, it's fun, dude. And languages it's my favorite thing. And if I'm stuck in a niche genre, this is the niche genre I'd want to be in, man. Because
for sure,
there's just, if you get to talking to somebody that has that passion about languages, man, it's great.
I won't shut up. Yeah.
Yep. That's what I'll start talking to like my wife and stuff, and she's like, I no idea, I don't care.
That's why I love being a linguistics major, because now I hang out with all my classmates after class, and I'm like, finally I have someone to nerd out with and talk about allophones and phonemes and and syntax trees and X-bar theory and all this stuff. It's great. I can't talk about it enough. I love it.
Yeah, I do too, man. And I'll have because I speak to my son in Esperanto, not all the time, obviously, but because I want him to grow up not even necessarily as an Esperanto speaker, but I really want to encourage him at a young age to learn languages, just because of the importance of it and just how that can help him out in life. But I'll go to, like my parents' house or something, and my mom will be like, oh, he'll like start just, how babies have gibberish or whatever. He's 14 months old. It's not like he can say words yet. And he'll start jabbering or whatever, and she'll be like, oh, he must be speaking that weird language. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's not weird. It's
right. Right. I mean, it can only be a benefit. It's not going to hurt him.
Yeah.
I have one. Huh?
No, go ahead.
Sorry, what were you gonna say? I have one friend who wanted to learn Esperanto with me. Well, actually, I've had a few other people express interest, but I have one friend who actually let me start helping him learn Esperanto, and he had I would say maybe a 3 or 4 year old girl at the time, and it is amazing how quickly children can pick up languages, because just from being in the room with me and my friend as we were practicing, she started learning Esperanto. Like, we weren't teaching this to her. She would just pick up Esperanto, and then every time I would come over to the house, she would run over and she'd say, "Saluton, Aaron." And this was totally, I remember I slept over at their house one time. I crashed on their couch, and I got woken up at 7 o'clock in the morning by this little girl running up and speaking Esperanto to me. And it was just Esperanto that she had heard me and her dad speaking.
That's crazy.
So, it was really amazing.
That is super crazy, man. I hope that I can do that. Well, plus 2, if he learns it, then that's somebody else for me to speak
Sure. Yeah, you
speak
just
with and
double
stuff.
your Esperanto community in your town.
So, but yeah, that's absolutely right. So, but I tell you, man, the main thing, and it's, I feel like people who watch, I don't know if people watch the podcast, they're probably because I do speak about Esperanto a lot, but I really do feel like I just don't think people understand how much that language meant to me. Not even because it's not that I don't think it's the greatest language ever. I don't even think it's perfect. There's clearly
Yeah,
errors with it,
for sure.
but
For sure.
just what it taught me, and it taught me how to learn and stuff. Like I'll forever be grateful to it. But
Yeah.
it's just I love that it's a constructed language that you can be as in depth as you want to with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a limitation on how vivid you can be. Like, I mean, because you can even, a lot of languages, real languages don't have it, but you can even, I have been writing, I had,
Oh,
done,
yeah.
like, which I try not to use the inta, anta, anta, ate, I try not to use that stuff too much because you can generally get your point across without it. But if you want to, it's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, because really and truly, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of difference in, oh, I had read Harry Potter and I read Harry Potter. It's,
Yeah.
so,
Right.
but it's amazing to me.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, especially a language that you can learn so quickly. And this is not, it's never going to be like, I mean, it can only help you, right? Like, it's, whether it's a stepping stone to another language, or, oops, looks like my battery is running. Sorry, I think I lost you there for a minute.
Oh, that's all cool.
I think my battery is dying here, so let me really quick.
That's all good.
It got
We
darker
can
on
wrap
my
up
face.
whenever you need to, man. If you're dying.
I mean, I don't know. Do you have other topics you want to talk about or anything? But,
I'm trying to think of anything else related. Okay, well, here's just a random question. I don't know why, but I have a massive interest in them. Do you have any interest in like Slavic languages and stuff? I'm always interested because Slavic seems to be like one of those like pivotal points. I know people that hate them or people that love them. I want to learn every Slavic language on the planet. I love them.
like, given all the time in the world, I would definitely want to learn one. But they're not high on my list. I would be really interested in learning Lithuanian.
Okay.
Is supposedly the closest living relative to Proto-Indo-European.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has changed the least since all these languages broke off from Proto-Indo-European thousands of years ago. So that would interest me.
Okay.
I had a friend several years ago teach me some basic Ukrainian. I was doing a little bit of that on Duolingo. I gave up because I couldn't get the alphabet on my, I couldn't spell it with their alphabet on my computer, so didn't go very far with that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I don't think I wouldn't put a huge emphasis on Slavic languages. They're not high on my list, but I for sure think they're interesting.
Yeah. I don't know why I have an interest in them. I've studied not much, but just enough. I guess like it's one of those things I studied it enough to where I guess I dabbled in it, and it's like, it interested me, but I moved on to other things because at the point I'm at in my life, is it more beneficial for me to study Spanish or Polish? Obviously, Spanish.
Right.
So I want to knock out a few quote unquote more useful languages, and not even, I mean, in the United States, if you can speak Spanish and English, you're in a way better spot than, if you can't. But I don't know what it was about, because I've started the Russian course just to see how it works, and I've done some Ukrainian and some Polish, and just here and there messed around with stuff, Turkish, and I love that. Maybe German would be a good spot for me because I love that guttural, I don't know, it's just I don't know, I love the sound of it for whatever reason.
Right, yeah, it sounds cool, for sure. And German is pretty close to. Well, German was one of the closer languages to English. So I've heard that Dutch is pretty easy to learn because it's even closer than German. But Dutch and German are very similar.
Yeah, I've heard the two that I always read that are the most similar to English are Dutch and Afrikaans.
Yeah. Well, and they also have what's called Frisian, I think, or
Frisian. Yeah, forgot about that.
I mean, that's supposed to be really close to. Well, it depends actually. Have you heard of Scots, the Scots language?
I don't think so.
So they're okay. You'll learn this if you ever take a linguistics class, but there's no clear-cut distinction between a dialect and a language. So, but there is an area of Scotland where they speak some people call it a dialect, some people call it a language, but it's called Scots. Mm-hmm. And it broke off from English. It broke off from Middle English, and they kind of both developed their two separate ways, I believe. So if we're going to consider this another language, then it's for sure the closest language to English that there is. And I would call it comparable to like Portuguese and Spanish to one another. Okay. Because I've listened to videos of people speaking Scots, and I can understand like 50% of what they're saying. And I actually have a book that's written in Scots. I don't know why. Why did I buy a book that's written in a language that I'm never going to learn?
Hey, man.
But I'm a language nerd, so I bought this book that's written in Scots, and I can read, like, a good portion of it.
I'll have to look into that, yeah.
It's really interesting, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I just do a Google search for someone speaking the Scots language.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I would like to check that out for sure. And have you ever seen? Do you ever watch Paul from Lang Focus?
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
Okay, he just did a.
I have a guy in my mind, and if that's the guy who you're talking about, then yeah. I don't know his first name.
He just did a video recently of Cockney rhyming patterns.
Okay.
And dude, this is the most interesting thing that I've seen in a long time. So basically, whatever the Cockney area around like the UK is, right. He explained where it was, but I'm afraid to say that because I'm afraid that I would.
Is the accent from London?
Yeah, it's like an interior. He said it was near something, but I don't remember what, and I don't want to guesstimate because I don't want to be incorrect on that, but. He so basically the idea is these people speak in rhymes, but it's indirect rhymes, and the way that it works is, so for example, let's say that you're wanting to say I went up the stairs. So what they've done is they say, okay, what rhymes with stairs? Pears. What goes with pears? Apples, like apples and pears. And so they'll say they'll say I'm gonna go up the apples. And then he breaks it in. Oh, dude, it's crazy. And then he goes even further, and he's like, okay, so let's say you wanted to say you're going in the house. What rhymes with house? Mouse. What goes with a mouse? A cat. So you can literally say, I'm going to go in the cat and up the apples, and it would be understood.
That's
crazy. Dude, it was so interesting. And he even
that's like Pig Latin on steroids, dude.
Yeah. And apparently it's, from what I understand, it's common, like, and just the people there just know what they're talking about. Because it's like, I guess, I don't know if it was a slang to kind of, disrupt, tourists. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is.
Right. Do they have, like, do they have preset words like apples always corresponds with stairs and cat always corresponds with house?
I don't know. I don't know if it's set or if it's between people.
Okay. Yeah, because if they have like like apples always means stairs, then that is easier to understand than if they just make up all this on the fly and are able to like make those connections. I
Yeah.
feel like you got to be a genius.
Oh yeah, yeah. You would. Yeah, absolutely. And there's even a site that he listed in that video where he was like, you can go and people who speak that will tell you if it's like modern Cockney or like I don't want to say ancient Cockney, but what's the word I'm looking for? Like
Archaic.
yeah, just something that's been established or whatever. But even like he made a sentence. He was like, "So what do you think this sentence means? I went and grabbed some Britneys." I don't know, and he's like, "Britney Spears, which rhymes with beers, so Britney."
Oh.
And I'm like, "Oh my god, man! Like, how did the? There's no way. This is insane."
Yeah, no, definitely not. Like if you said that to me, it would. There's no way I would make that connection.
Yeah, man, it was crazy, but it was a very very I'll send you a link on Facebook or something after because it's a very interesting video. Okay. Like it was one of the more entertaining, like interesting ideas around languages that I've seen.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, I think I've seen. I didn't watch the video, but I think I've seen the thumbnail, like in the suggested videos or something like that.
Yeah, it was
but
very.
Then, language games like that are kind of common. Like we have Pig Latin, where you're not speaking a different language, you're just changing the way that you speak English, in order to, for some people. And then in Spanish, they have this weird, I don't know if you've ever heard someone, like, instead of saying café for coffee, they would say feca. So you switch the syllables around.
Oh.
I can never understand people when they're talking like that, but
yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I guess it might be easier, if you were a native, but yeah, that seems like I guess sometimes I feel like languages do that, or like it's almost like a built-in defense mechanism. So it's like, oh, somebody learned our language, but we can still confuse them.
Right. Well, it won't work for me because I can't speak Pig Latin either. I can only understand if you say one word, then I'll maybe understand you in Pig Latin.
Yeah.
But I can't understand sentences,
Yeah, it's super wild. So, I appreciate. I might end it there. It's like an hour and 15.
Okay.
But man, I'm super happy that you came on. And I'm glad to know that you're still alive after running with the Bulls, which I know you've uploaded a video since then. But
right.
But yeah, thanks for coming. And love at some point. Maybe next time we can try to formulate. Did we talk about maybe having a plan? It seems like so, but I like the idea of
we briefly talked about what did you say? Being able to listen and read languages, but not being able to speak and
passive fluency.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, maybe we can get into that on the next. I just thought it would be fun for the first time just to kind of just chat and stuff. So I definitely appreciate you coming on for that, man. So I'll wrap the podcast up here, and then I'll talk for a second afterwards. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Go check out Aaron's channel. I will leave a link to his language channel and whatever other channel that he wants me to list in the description. And then hopefully, we can have him back again soon. So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next podcast.